my lovelies. Today we're going to be discussing the topic of too spiritual for any earthly use. This is a topic which I think is very rarely spoken about, and I think it really needs to be highlighted. When you are, I want you to picture a phone, an old-fashioned phone going bring, 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 yeah? And I'll put a picture up here, and it's to signify the fact that in our lives we have that going off all the time, and it's coming from sort of two different places. One, it's coming from our guide who's wanting to communicate with us, and so it will often send little messages to you to say, I really want to talk to you. And the other one is from within us. Now, although our spirit is always wanting to talk to us, call it your higher self, call it God, call it whatever you want, is happy to sit and discuss and talk with us all the time, there is another sort of thing that has creeped into the spiritual community that I feel should be addressed. Ooh. The other side is that when you're like an antenna, and if it's permanently on, and you know it's permanently on, you can fall into a category where you don't really know what to do with it, and it can often leave you feeling very anxious all the time, being avoidant of situations and people and places, when what you should be doing is working on yourself to kind of work out exactly what's going on. So let me give you, for instance, if the telephone, if you're this group, the telephone's ringing constantly and you feel it's a spiritual thing, then what you need to do here is you have the ability to switch on or switch off, talk or not talk to your guide. That's absolutely, it is, you have the authority. Whether it is something that's not for your higher good coming into you, you have total authority, or whether it's something good coming to you. We do it all the time. We can't constantly be in the hermit mode. So hopefully you've got that clear. Now, what the majority of people feel is they're picking up on frequencies, they're picking up on vibrations, and 99% of the time what they're picking up on is something that's within them that's making them feel off kilter. I'll give you for instance. So somebody can turn around and say, well, I went into a party, let's say, and there were some people there, and I just felt something from them and I didn't really like it, so I decided to leave because it made me, you know, I couldn't take it after a while. When actually it can be, if you go into sort of some reflective work, you can actually go, well, what is it about these people's energy and frequency and vibrations that I'm being triggered by? Is it that they're showing an awful lot of confidence and I haven't as much confidence and it's making me feel insecure? Is it that they have a certain type of personality which reminds me of an abusive parent or partner, and because of that it's making me feel very anxious or protective, or, you know, there's a myriad of different reasons why we can be in a situation or be at home on our own and suddenly feel anxious. It can be that there may be a planet in a house, or our a planet is going into a retrograde, which causes everybody to kind of feel that frequency that either will repel you or will attract you to what you need to change and work on in your life. But mattering to the individual, you know, it's all very, very variable. So I find if somebody's feeling very anxious, I always say to them, well, go look up on your star chart. If, for instance, if I'm a Taurian, I've said this before, if there's anything tugging on the Aries house, I kind of don't like it, because I'm not an entrepreneur. I kind of need pushing into entrepreneurial things, because it's just not, I don't feel naturally at ease with that. It's something I need to work on, you see. So I recognize that actually it's not, there's something wrong with a certain planet being in a house of work, let's say, but I am clashing with the fact that I don't actually like to be in that place, and so therefore I'm feeling a bit edgy. Yeah, it's so once you've armed yourself with information and knowledge like that, you're able to go, that's what it's about. Okay, well, what do I have to change then? You know, and be not retrospective, be go in within yourself, go into hermit mode and go, okay, what can I learn from this experience? What can I learn from this vibration that I'm having a negative reaction to? And possibly it's a karmic lesson that you need to work on. Another thing is that, oh, hold on, I'll get my notes. You know, people can turn around to me and they can say, which I've heard before, they'll turn around and go, well, sorry. Oh, I'm sensing the energies at this moment, and they're making me feel very anxious. What do I do about it? And I'd like to break this down for you. I'm sensing, right, that's fine, the energies at the moment, and they're making me feel anxious, feel anxious. Nothing is actually making you do anything. You've got a complete choice, okay? Harsh as that sound, it's a complete choice. Feel. What you're feeling on and dwelling on is a choice, and if you dwell on it long enough, you will get effects. You will get anxiety and fear or loss of control, you know, all these general negative emotions. So the trick is to look at what you're going through, what you're feeling, break it down into, is it something on the inside of me or something on the outside of me? We know that spirit will, whatever it is we tap into, is can be turned on or off and won't be offended. The only person that misses out is us half the time. If it's inside of us and we use discernment, we're able to go, okay, I need to it's probably highlighting an area I need to work on. And that's what gives us this whole onion ring sort of effect. You know, as soon as you learn one karmic lesson, there's another one to learn, another one and another one. And that's life. So I want to give you another situation as well about discernment. So I was at a church a long time ago now, and we had a visiting man who professed to have the gift of prophecy. And before he started his sermon, he gave a prophetic word for a lot of people, including myself. And I sat there, I'm not usually negative, but I sat there and I was a little bit kind of, something doesn't vibe on this. And then he gave me a prophecy about myself, and I thought, no, you're not giving a prophetic message. You're actually giving you're doing an empathic reading. You're just telling us all what we want to hear. You're tapping into what we're feeling about ourselves and not actually what is prophetic. Now, this can sometimes be very, very dangerous, a bit silly, and not very productive at best. And there was one particular man that listened, and all the church were like, yes, yes, this is it. And, you know, this is what we need to hear. And it's about a particular man who, when I first met him, I classed it as God or the Holy Spirit at the time, said to me that he was going to be a pastor one day, but that he had to go through training, and his training ground was to be the worship team that he was leading at the time. And from sort of managing the chaos that is in worship teams, he would gain enough understanding as of how to deal with people in a, you know, in churches of his own, in a church of his own. Because of this prophecy, within, I think it was about 5 months, he was given his own church. And I was just like, you know, what? Because I knew he hadn't learned anything. He hadn't had enough time for a start. You know, he didn't like confrontation. He tended to, you know, kind of shy away from managing people. And often fights broke out in worship teams. They all around the world. They you know, there's a lot of egos sometimes in worship teams, unfortunately, with people that aren't very professional, and so he kind of let it run amok, and a lot of problems sort of brewed from his inactivity. And so, you know, it's not. Why am I telling you this? Well, I guess I'm telling you this because discernment is such a big thing in the spiritual life of ourselves, and the spiritual community aren't talking about it enough. We have to discern who we're talking to, or who's talking to us. We have the keys and the responsibility of that. It's not on anyone else, you know. So it's up to us to use discernment on that. You can simply tell them to leave if you don't like that, or you don't think that that's right. We have to have discernment in how we feel all the time. If you're going into prayer or meditation and you've got a bad attitude, you're going to attract some things that you shouldn't attract. And if they don't kind of say, oh, come on, let's have a different way to think about this, if they're not leading you towards good, then you're probably not on a great track, and you're not really talking to somebody you should be talking to. It's about discerning spirit with energies and vibrations. If you walk into a room and just because you're feeling uneasy, that's not necessarily the people's problem that are in the room. It's possibly you are being triggered. And I know a lot of people won't like this, but you know, it's 99% of the reason why people kind of walk in and I had to leave, the vibration was dreadful. And I'll give you, for instance, I walked into Sainsbury's, and I'm triggered massively in Sainsbury's at the moment. And there are two reasons for that. One is because Sainsbury's has run amok this is a shop in the UK, grocery store, and has run amok with sort of totalitarianism, really. And usually I feel really happy in Sainsbury's, but I walked in there and I've gone in there 3 times since, and I hate it so much I don't go in there now. Real fear-mongering. So there you go, that's something on the outside. But I had to sit there and recognise that I have an innate dislike of being told what to do. So it's also both. So when I go into Tesco's, another different type of grocery store in the UK, the Tesco's that I go into, I usually don't like that place because, you know, it's huge, it's large, and very impersonal, I don't know, it's not as nice as Sainsbury's, but I went round there recently, a number of times now, and I've loved it. You know, no totalitarian regime, everyone's smiling, happy, and I feel great. Reason for that, let's discern. It's purely because I'm not being told what to do every single, you know, I haven't got an antenna shouting over me every 5 minutes, stay 6 feet away from other people, and about 20,000 different types of sort of these see-through perspex dividers everywhere. So you can see here, do I think there's something wonderful about the frequency in Tesco's? No, I think that's me sensing. It's me not triggering me at all, but where in Sainsbury's I'm triggered, one, by the totalitarian regime that's in our particular Sainsbury's, but also, to be fair, Sainsbury's has actually, it's kind of, the people that run Sainsbury's have really run amok with a lot of the way they're running their business. It's not healthy. So I know there it's a bit of both. A friend of mine, hope she won't mind me saying this, a friend of mine, she was feeling very, very anxious a couple of weeks ago, and she was, you know, I don't know what's the matter with all of us, as you know, really weird energies, and Spirit just said to me, that's just coming from you. I didn't tell her that, but it's coming straight from her. She's feeling anxious, everyone's feeling anxious in the house, anxiety is ruling, so that I would class that as coming from her. Clarified by the fact that the minute I showed her a brilliant video, it was really lovely, and she said, oh, I feel much better now. Now that's not the frequency changing, that's her mindset has altered. So again, that's something that's within her. So right, so what to do about it then? Practicalities. I'm going to show up a picture here of the bubble. When you are walking into an environment, when you are in your own home, when you're walking around, and you sense a frequency of vibration and you are being triggered by it and you're feeling anxious or scared or whatever, put yourself in the bubble and just say, what is it? Is this inside or outside? And go into that hermit mode and get your answer. If it's within, do work. If it's in, question yourself. Say, okay, what's triggering me then? And wait for an answer. Go in that hermit lunar space and lunar love good space and see what the answer is. You will get answered if you ask a question. And just be open to whatever the answer is. If, on the other hand, it is something that is, you know, through discernment work out it is something on the outside, then you have the choice of, again, you ask the questions, but also, you know, take ownership and say, okay, let's look at the moon, let's look at my star chart, let's go and look at astronomy, what's actually going on with the planets, what am I being triggered by, what is being asked of us, who are of a particular sign, and then again change it. If you meet somebody and they trigger you and you start to feel all these sorts of feelings, you know, to the point where I've got to leave, I've got to run away, you have to say to yourself, is this a person who's got bad energy and bad vibration, or is it something about that person who is triggering an insecurity within me? So let's think of a situation to explain. Okay, so I was in a situation, well, I've been in tons of situations where I've met somebody and they've just made me feel really iggy. Well, if you're in that situation, for instance, there was a man, he just made me feel really, there was something really horrid about him. And I kind of ignored the vibration because I just thought, I'm my worst critic. But so I just kind of thought, oh, it's probably me. But as truth came out, I had a reason, a perfectly understandable reason to feel that there was something wrong there. But I can have the same sort of vibration with a different person, and actually they remind me of my mother, or they remind me of my father. And because I've not yet karmically worked everything out, what I'm feeling is my subconscious is awakening me to the fact that here's somebody like Dad. Oh, it's scary. So my inner child is kind of being made very aware of that here is somebody who is a similar personality, or is just showing a behavior that your inner child is has picked up on and is instantly kind of putting up the red flags. And at this point, you don't just wipe the person off the face of the planet and go, on, stay away from them. Question yourself, use discernment and say, is it just behaviour, or is it something they've done or said? Is it their personality? Is it the clothes they're wearing and the way they walk? I mean, what is it that's triggering me? And if there's nothing horrid about them, then you've got to kind of realise that the work needs to be done within yourself. Hopefully, I mean, let's talk for a second about, there are people who are having all of these senses and feeling edgy all the time. And for those that are doing that, deep breathing, calming yourself, getting in the bubble. If you can't hear, if I'm talking to people who actually can't hear audible, either inside or outside of your head, your guide, then what I would suggest is you've kind of got to go within, breathe, picture the bubble, and sit and rest in that place and give it to your guide, and just go, okay, I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to just calm myself, and I'm going to work out what it is that's making me, feel this anxiety, and work patiently with yourself on lowering, or rather raising your stamina for being able to sit in an environment that for some unknown reason is making you feel anxious. And because running away karmically is the worst thing you can do, because it will just keep coming back until you actually deal with it. So rest in that, safe in your visualized bubble, and focus heavily on just resting there. Just rest there. You're not imploding, you're not exploding. Rest in your own strength and your own power. Do this because it helps empower yourself. But ask yourself the hard questions, as I've previously stated. If you do and are able to hear spirit, there isn't a reason why you can't do the same thing. Go, put yourself in the bubble and just ask yourself the big questions and get the answers back. My son was oh gosh, my first son, he was about 9 years old, I think, 9, 10. And he hated going into, I think I've said this before, he hated going into not supermarkets, anywhere where there was a large amount of people. And I remember him having this one time where we went through a shopping mall, and he said, Mom, I don't like being in these sorts of places. I can feel people's loneliness. And my answer to people that have those sorts of empathic abilities is, while it can be a blessing, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, but it can also be a curse. And I've got to be honest, I disagree. You could just switch it off. Oh, pardon, I've got hiccups now. Just switch it off. If you are particularly susceptible to large amounts of people and all that energy, walk in the bubble. Just visualize yourself with a protective bubble over you, where it's just you and your higher self walking around. Go into that lunar love good place. I've stated that, you'll see it. It's November reading plus lunar, or hermit plus hermit. Something like that, 2 before anyway. Go in that space and it just won't affect you. It might take you a few goes to kind of really visualize it in place, but you don't have to feel it, and you can just switch it off and actually feel brilliant, because it's being in the bubble is an awful lot like, to me, if you visualize it really well and do some practice runs at it before you go out, and you're sat there bathed in the presence of God, or the presence of love, however you want to visualize it, it's almost like being in a solarium or a hothouse, or you know, or being under one of those sunbathing booths, what do you call them, sun booths, you know, where you get a tan. You just sat there and you can just feel it, you know, reflected off of the walls back on you, and you can visualize it coming from you and bouncing off the walls, and it's just such a wonderful feeling. And so you know, to me, being in those sorts of situations, it can actually be really beneficial. So where, you know, a few weeks before you'd go, oh, I used to hate this, now you actually look forward to going, because it's such a huge contrast between what you used to felt like and what you now feel like, if that makes any sense. So hopefully we have discussed this, because at the end of the day, if you're allowing all the frequencies to wash over you all the time, and these vibrations to affect you so badly, it's actually going to impede your life here. It's going to make it miserable, and all it needs is practice, and you moving in a more empowered way in dealing with somebody who's very sensitive to energy. So hopefully that will help. I don't know, I was a bit nervous about doing this, but I think it needs to be spoken about. I think it needs to be discussed. As I said before, would love you to give me any questions that you'd like for our next topic, and because I really felt that I was to ask that, so that's what I'm asking. And I look forward to hearing. I don't want to hear anything personal, because then it's a personal reading. But if you've got a question about how to be a spiritual person in this day and age, in a particular area, I'd love to hear, and I'll have a stab at answering it. Okay, bye. Bye. Oh, give me a thumbs up, because it helps with the algorithms.